Hey, Word Saints. Father Chris here. Welcome to our crucifictional live stream. Glad to have you with us as we wrap up Decision Week 1996. Me, my cousin John, we're in Lebanon. Ethnically, I'm Lebanese. We went back to the motherland to see, and we ended up in a small village named Kifr Aqqa, right? So it's like up in the hills, and we speak no Arabic. My cousin, even less. And we were going, there was a priest that we knew from the States, took us into the village, happened to be, for his village, whatever, and they take us into this home. And now keep in mind, I don't speak very good Arabic now. This was almost 30 years ago. I didn't speak none back then, so I don't know what's going on. We walk into this house, and he greets the family, and they all knew him, whatever. And then they escort the two dumb Americans into another room. We walk into this room, beautiful. I mean, the home was nice. It was like a really lovely parlor, sitting room, whatever. And they escort us in. We sit down, and they close the door, and they leave. And then it hits us. There's 9, not exaggerating, 9 girls in the room. And I was like, dumb. I'm like, well, that's peculiar. Like, I don't understand. This is a real story. I'm not even embellishing, right? My cousin can to verify. But there were 9 girls in there. I didn't get it. I'm like, I don't understand what. They want us to marry one of these girls, right? Like, that was the thing, right? That's still a thing. You can make that kind of arrangement. So we're sitting there, and we can't talk to them because we don't speak Arabic, and they don't speak English. And here we are in the middle of Lebanon. We're looking for the priest who we knew, who was the only guy in the house who spoke English, and he was gone. So we're stuck in this house with 9 very attractive young ladies who we can't communicate with. And we're sitting there quiet, just like, bumps on a log. And my cousin, this is true, he leans over, and he's like, what do we do? And I looked at him and said, I don't know, dude. Just pick one and let's get the hell out of here, right? Like, let's just go. And needless to say, neither one of us picked one. But the joke of the whole thing was, and why I even bring that story up, it's true, by the way, is that when going to make a decision about who to marry, you've got to be deliberate, baby. You can't allow certain factors to be the only the guiding principle in the decisions that you make. I'm going to speak for the rest of this episode towards men, but ladies, as you're listening, remember, this applies equally to you in the inverse, right? So if I'm talking to the fellas, it's the same for the gals, all right? But we'll just switch the genders, masculine and feminine, right? So get the message. We're going to start with the book of Proverbs, chapter 31. Ladies, it's called The Good Wife. Though the chapter is speaking about not a lady, but Lady Wisdom, it uses the metaphor of a good wife. Right? You may all be familiar with this. The metaphor of the good wife who can find. Listen to chapter 31 of Proverbs, verse 10 only. A good wife who can find. She is far more precious than jewels. Right? So the statement of the proverbist is telling you, gentlemen, find a good wife. Now, hot does not equal good, right? Hot may be a part of good, but it is not the only part of good. You understand, right? Like, I am very, very blessed, lucky, thanks be to God. My wife is hot, right? She is a beautiful, stunningly beautiful woman. She gets, more and more beautiful each and every day since we got married, since I've known her, right? But that is not the number one deciding factor on why I asked her out on a date. Well, that's a lie. That's why I asked her out. But, why I asked her out on a second date was because, in spite of her beautiful looks, there was so much more, right? And this was all of a sudden intriguing to me because now it became more than just a pretty face. It became someone who has a mind, who thinks, who has a heart, who has faith, who has morals, who has values. And that's what leads me to the main point of what I want to share to you today. When you are deciding who do you want to marry, who do you want to spend all of your life with, and even if you are already married, how you want to behave with this person, you must make, in some real sense, without being dramatic at all, a list. I did it. And I scored and have the best wife on the planet, right? She's beautiful. That's what started it, if I'm being honest. But the truth of it, why I stayed with it, and perhaps why she stayed with me, was because there was something more. And so understanding what that something more that we want is so important. It is the decision that you must make. Right now, I'm going to tell you, we've been talking, look, watch how this works. The 4 things, the framework for the way we make decisions. Number 1 is decide. I'm going to be deliberate. I am not going to let this bad boy tell me and social media tell me how to make decisions. Number 2, God's voice, not the voice of culture, is going to be the reference point on how I make those decisions. I'm going to watch or subscribe to, if I haven't already, Understanding the Bible at our website so that I can know exactly what God's voice is saying, and then the biggie, I'm going to implement it. I'm deciding, God's the man in the middle. I'm going to learn what he's saying so I get it, and then I'm going to implement it. And to do that, at this point in between here, we've got to have that list when referencing a spouse, right? So now look, like I said, being attractive, a beautiful woman, or for our ladies on the other side, being a handsome gentleman, those things matter. And look, I was honest with you. I mean, like, I didn't ask my bride out on our first date because I thought she was, a Mensa project. She was beautiful, right? I mean, let's just be honest about it. It's a driving factor, but it cannot be the only nor the main foundation for your relationship. You must first decide a few things, and here's where the piece of paper comes into play in that list, a few things that are really essential to you. I would encourage you, write them down. Like, I'll give you my list so you can see it. The Orthodox faith. I'm an Orthodox Christian before I was even an Orthodox priest. That matters to me. I'm Lebanese ethnically. Not a deal breaker, but it was an important thing. And I'll tell you why in that one in a moment. To have a reasonably healthy mind, to understand family, to understand, and here's really a big one which goes back to the Orthodox Christian part, to understand faith in God. Those things, and there was others on my list, those things mattered to me, right? Like, those are important to me. Now, I'm not going to negotiate with not having an Orthodox Christian as my spouse. Doesn't mean that any other faith or other Christian is bad or lesser. That's not at all what we're saying. But for me, who had the desire to be an Orthodox priest, it's a requirement. So that was prerequisite number one. Being Lebanese, right? That matters to me a great deal. But if she was not Lebanese like me, it wouldn't have broken the deal if she could fill out all the rest of the boxes. Do you understand? But why do I say Lebanese? It's not because we as Lebanese are better than any other ethnicity. It's because we were raised the same way and we think the same way. And I tell all of my couples in premarital counseling, the way that my wife and I think may be crazy. I'm willing to concede that, but it's the same kind of crazy. Do you understand? So one of the things that we do on holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas, is that we spend time with my family and then her family, and the next year we switch and back and forth. That was never a conversation in our home. It was never, therefore, the possibility of an argument in our home because we both were raised the same way to know that that's what we do. Now, I'm not even saying to you that that is the way you should behave in your relationships. But what I am saying was it never became a point of contention because whether Lebanese is good or bad, we think the same way. It's crazy, but it's the same kind of crazy. So I say that point to give you an understanding that don't let your ethnicity be the only guiding factor, just as attractiveness is the only factor. But let it be something sincerely important in the whole process because it informs the way you think, right? It informs your brain. As I say to, again, all of my premarital counseling, my parents put a system in my head. It may be nuts, but it is my system, right? And my wife is compatible with that system. Hers is very similar to mine. Do you understand? Certainly we have differences, absolutely, but they're not so estranged in process and in order that it creates contention. Does that make sense? So in all of those things, when you make the decision of who you want to date with an eye on who you perhaps one day want to marry, let that list be powerful for you, baby. Let it really guide you, right? Don't take it just on chance because one of the things that we see throughout all of the literature is that divorce rates in the United States of America and the Western world are nearing 50%. Do you understand that? That's 1 out of every 2. And many people are not even getting married anymore and just cohabitating. So the number is probably way higher if they were to actually marry. Do you understand? So it's an epidemic. It's a pandemic, a polydemic. It's a demic. Whatever it is, it's tough. And so in order for you guys to not have to fall into that same kind of trap, maybe you can stack the deck in your favor a little bit by making good decisions on the front end and not just leaving it all up to chance because she was hot, right? I hope she is. I'm sure if you marry the right woman, she's beautiful, at least in your eyes. She better be, at least in your eyes. Could I say that? Sorry if I said that. It sounded terrible. It sounded bad coming out of my mouth. She's beautiful. She's a lovely lady. All of that rambling to say this, guys. Look, be serious about it. Take it seriously. Because I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to put in your mind that one of the most important decisions that you can make is who you marry, who you spend all your time with, the rest of your life with. Be deliberate, write your list, see what's negotiable and see what's not. And then if someone, fits the right attributes of what you need as your complete, perfect counterpart, go get some. Ask her out. Maybe she'll say yes. Love you. We'll be back Sunday. Orthros, Liturgy, 9 and 10 a.m. respectively. And we're going to be back next week with some more live stream. And that next week, we will celebrate Christmas. Love you. Be safe. Have a great weekend. And as always, keep walking on the way of the warrior saint.